Long journey from now to 10 a.m. Big conversations expected as well for you. But for now, we're getting into the newspapers here on the 3FM Sunrise. In minutes to the top of the hour. Big banner story on the front page of the Daily Graphic reads: Government mines seal historic gold pact. 30% large-scale production goes to gold board. It's a desk report. It has a picture of Frederick Atakuma, who's the president of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, and Christopher Nyako, also of the Chamber of Mines, in charge of analysis and research. Then Ken Ashigbe, the CEO of the Chamber of Mines, and Sami Jemfi, the Gold Board CEO, after announcing the agreement. And yesterday you would have caught wind of it because they posted on social media as well as the breaking news. All in relation to the GANRAP project as well by the government, where we're seeking to rack up a bit more in terms of gold purchases to build reserve, amongst other things. I'll get you the details because it's replete on a number of front pages this morning here for you on the 3FM Sunrise. Also here, first national disaster risk strategy underway. And there's some good news. A bill to end witchcraft accusations under consideration. That's according to the local government minister. So most certain, a number of things I will return to the Daily Graphic for to get details of. So essentially, for me on the witchcraft accusation bill, right? What happens to the one that was passed by private members bill, pushed by Medina MP Francis Xavier Sosu? Well, see, Sibo has been speaking. That's on the back page of the Daily Graphic stories by Maurice Kwanzaa. Says we're beating Croatia for top sport. Sibo assures. Mighty man Sibo. Mighty man Sibo speaking ahead of the game. That game is on tomorrow at 9 p.m. Ghanaian Times next on my bill. Boosting national reserves. Government secures 30% gold offtake deal with mining firm. Latif Idrisu assault case. Court orders continuation after AG IGP fail to settle matter. Bank of Ghana tightens sanctions on dat check offenders. Telecel codes program nurtures next generation of digital innovators. Ghana needs preventive disaster strategy. That's according to NADMO. The back page of the newspaper, that's the Ghanaian Times to be specific. Black Stars set for Croatia test tomorrow. That game becomes all important if you look at how things are panning out. Because a lot of the third place teams are qualifying with 4 points. A lot of them are racking 4 points. And it's looking even more difficult for Senegal ever than ever. Croatia are on 3. They'll need that point or possibly a win to guarantee their qualification into the next round. Ghana most certainly should have made it through, but there are arguments and debate as to whether we finish second or we finish third. Kwesisibo on the back page of the Daily Graphic says we're going for gold, we're finishing first. You know, all of that wouldn't have been necessary should we have beaten England. You know, that missed penalty. Not missed penalty. That penalty call that didn't come for us has become ever more so important now than ever. Chamber signed 30% large-scale gold purchase deal. Told you it was on almost every front page. That story as well. Gold boss Sami Jemfi flanked by Kenneth Ashigbe, Frederick Atakuma, and an official of the chamber. Sedina was not in prison for 15 days. It's according to the NPP. Sedina was not in prison for 15 days. Wuntumi's lawyer urges court to defer judgment. As according to the family, and Herald editor jailed for contempt of court. You know, on that Black Stars conversation, we'll get into it when the sports team comes. But let me just pick quick thoughts from Nuhu Adams as well. He's a sports journalist and analyst with us not with us here in the country. Nuhu, good morning to you. I trust that you're well.
I'm doing fine.
Talk to us. This final group fixture against Croatia. It's brought about very interesting permutations. What are the odds like, and what are our best chances of going beyond the round of 32, even as we prepare for that all-important game?
Yeah, I can say we are almost through to the round of 32. We are just waiting for confirmation. 4 points is enough. Looking at the other groups and the best placed teams. So, at worst, even if we lose to Croatia, we still qualify to the round of 32. But the crucial point now is looking for which opponent will be best for us in the round of 32. If we are able to finish first, we look at the teams available. We are likely to face an African opposition if we are able to top the group, or we face Ecuador. But looking at our situation, first is being first or finishing first in our group is highly impossible, because England are playing against Panama, and England are beating Panama, so they are not going to score less than a goal. So once they are able to get at least a goal or two, that means even if Ghana beat Croatia, we will still be second in the group. And finishing second means we play against Portugal or Colombia, regardless of the positions, or depending on the positions, they also finish in their groups. And we play before Colombia, Portugal play. So it's on us to decide where we want to play in the next round, because if we finish second, it means we are going to Toronto, Canada, which we all know Thomas Partey has been banned to travel to Canada. So the moment we finish second, it means Thomas Partey is unavailable for us, regardless of the opposition. And if we finish third, we are going to face either Portugal or Colombia. But that match will be played in USA. So that is making things a little bit confusing. So I don't know what the coaches are discussing. I don't know what the top officials are discussing. Ghanaians can decide which one would they prefer. Ghana should go ahead, beat Croatia, or draw against Croatia, finish second in the group, and play our round of 32 game in Toronto, Canada, without Thomas Partey, or we finish third, still face either Portugal or Colombia, but the game will be played in USA. So that has been the confusion now. So we will see how things will go tomorrow.
Well, that's a difficult place to be in all sincerity as to what next for us. But Panama doesn't have any motivation at all to want to go out and get results against England, and so now
Panama will only play for pride and prestige. Even if they win 100-0 against England, they will still end up finishing bottom of the group. That's why right after their two defeats, they were confirmed out of the group, because even if they win their last match, they still don't have any position that can qualify them into the next round. So Panama will just go in, play for pride and prestige, like we've seen other countries do. Curaçao played in that kind of situation. We saw yesterday Turkey going out of the walkabout. They still managed to beat the host United States of America just for pride and prestige, because the results didn't change their position on the table. So Panama, there's no motivation for them. They can only pride themselves if they are able to get at least a draw against England.
At least a draw will not be entirely favorable for us as well, will it? But
yeah, if Panama are able to hold England, it means we should beat Croatia at all costs to finish first on the standings. And if that is possible, it means we are going to avoid either Portugal and Colombia and still play the round of 32 game in USA. The only time we are discussing Portugal or Colombia is when either we finish second or third, but we decide where to play our next round of games. That's either Toronto or Atlanta. So that's the difficult situation now. I don't know which is the best results for the coaches. I don't know which is the best results for officials. I don't know which one Ghanaians will prefer.
Right, no, I'm sure as it inches ever closer, we will get a sense as to where our loyalties or our leanings will lie in terms of the type of results we'll be looking out for. But I appreciate you joining us this morning as well on the show.
Thank you very much.
That's Nuhu Adams. He's a sports journalist here in the country with us, helping us appreciate in terms of what we should be looking out for, right? So let me know what you think and what results you would prefer. Also looking at the possible opponents we could face in the round of 32. Would you rather have us fight for a pride and place, go up second, travel outside of the USA to Canada where one of our key players cannot feature in, or we allow ourselves to be beat by Croatia, which will almost certainly still guarantee a qualification, but we'll have to stay in the US, and then we face some very interesting opposition, possibly Ecuador, right? Well, see me live on Facebook, same as well on YouTube. Let me know what you think of that as well. I'll return to the papers for us quickly. The Finder newspaper, the New Finder. Government applies for license to establish Women's Development Bank. That story is on page 12 of the newspaper. BOG warns that check offenders of 3-year ban. Ghana's growth to slow to 4.7% in 2027. Ghana set to face Croatia tomorrow, and bond market turnover falls to 5.41 billion cedis. The News Center, judge jails Larry Dogbe despite service notice dispute. Catherine Engman, the renowned boardroom builder, there's a story on her on page 8. Gold Board raises gold uptake to 30% from 20% agreement with large-scale miners. Amrahia demolition victims seek Mahama intervention. That story is on page 3. And Tema fishers blame low catch on climate change legal fishing. The Punch Africa, Sami Jemfi's transformation of PMMC into Gold Board. KDR writes, Majority Leader charges MPs to protect public purse. ECOWAS court vindicates government in ex-Chief Justice case. Honorable Doyo advocates stronger support for widows. Apenyo Markin returns to ECOWAS Parliament after recomposition. And Government Chamber of Mines to purchase 30% of gold output from large-scale mining firms. The catalyst is the last one I have. Gold Board strikes a major deal to boost reserves and raw mineral export. Pantiakwa South NDC in turmoil as branch executives arrest sparks intimidation claim. Herald's editors jailing sends chilling signal to journalists. And Wuntumi's new lawyer seeks delay in a Akwanta mining case, citing fair trial concerns.
3FM Sunrise.
I mentioned I was going to return to the Daily Graphic for quite a number of details. The first is that one on government or Gold Board sealing a 30% large-scale production uptick. It's a news desk report, and it reads that government through the Ghana Gold Board has secured a landmark agreement with the Ghana Chamber of Mines to buy 30% of the gold output of all large-scale mining companies in Ghana. The deal takes effect from July 1 this year as the government moves a step higher to maximize national benefits from the mineral resource. Under the agreement, all the large-scale mining companies will sell 30% of their gold output to Gold Board locally in Ghana in DOR, that's the raw form, and at a discount of 0.55%. Furthermore, all gold purchases under the new agreement will be in Ghana cedis and at the Bank of Ghana reference rates. The Gold Board will work under the joint direction of the Minister of Finance, Land and Natural Resource to execute the agreement on behalf of the government of Ghana. Now, the government statement. Now, speaking of the official announcement of the agreement, the Chief Executive Officer of the Gold Board, Sami Jemfi, said the deal will support the gold reserve accumulation, improvement economic. It will support gold reserve accumulation, improve economic buffers, and help government to achieve its economic stability objectives. We will be taking the refined gold to LBMA refineries outside Ghana for melting and stamping and for onward delivery of the related bullion to the Bank of Ghana. So this arrangement is going to help us further develop and promote our local refining capacity and local value retention, and it is going to fast-track our agenda to achieve LBMA accreditation for at least one of the gold refineries we have in the country in the next 3 years as directed by the president. And so that is pretty much the latest in relation to this development. And it's been on the front pages of a number of papers because it comes in at record good time. I'm just going to try and have us listen to Sami Jemfi in his own words, right, as to exactly what all of this means, as well as the latest from the other representatives from the Ghana Chamber of Mines who were all present and spoke briefly as well in relation to this particular subject matter. And here are the individuals in their very own words, right, one after the other, addressing the country in relation to this matter.
A senior official of the chamber joined us today, and we have good news to communicate to the people of Ghana. and by extension, the world. After months of negotiations with large-scale mining companies in the country, we are happy to inform the nation that the government has secured an agreement with large-scale mining companies in the country, represented by the Ghana Chamber of Mines, for them to sell 30% of their output, their gold output, to the government of Ghana, represented by the Ghana Gold Board. And this has come about, as I said, through months of negotiations at the behest of the Minister of Finance, the Governor of the Central Bank of Ghana, and the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. So, on behalf of the President of the Republic and the Minister for Finance, I would like to thank the Chamber of Mines for leading this process and for the concessions they have made in helping us reach this agreement, which will go a long way to support gold reserve accumulation, improve economic buffers, and help government achieve its economic stability objectives. We are very, very excited that unlike the previous arrangements, this time around we will not just be getting 20% but 30%. This is historic. This is landmark, and we are grateful for that. Again, unlike the previous arrangements, we will be buying this gold in Ghana cities, locally in Ghana, in a form of dory. And we will be refining this gold locally in Ghana. We'll be taking the refined gold to LBMA refineries outside Ghana for melting and stamping, and for onward delivery of the related bullion to the Bank of Ghana. So this arrangement is going to help us further develop and promote our local refining capacity and local value retention. And it is going to fast track our agenda to achieving LBMA accreditation for at least one of the gold refineries we have in the country in the next 3 years, as directed by the President. And so we are very, very excited about this landmark agreement, and we commend the Ghana Chamber of Mines.
The Ghana Chamber of Mines have been aligned to this objective of ensuring that Ghana refines, its gold. It's in line with our whole process of supporting Ghana extracts maximum value from the entire value chain. And as we said when we joined the Gold Board and Gold Coast Refinery at their signing agreement, we had initiated some conversations already. We had gone to Rand Refinery ahead of all of that, set up a technical committee. So our commitment to this process has not been in doubt. We also are in support of Ghana's quest to be able to build our war chest of the reserves, because again, any gold mine, any business will thrive in a stable macro environment. So and that's a good thing to do, and we're happy with being able to get some concessions, being able to agree on how this can be done. The good thing is that whatever we are starting, the process is to be able to increase efficiency, so the cost, that we as mining firms will be going down as the years go along, and then we would then at the end of the 3 years be able to ensure that we have an LBMA certified refinery in Ghana, and that would be a plus for all of us.
We're very excited that we can be part of this, if you like, monumental milestone that has been achieved, and would like to place on record our gratitude to the Chief Executive of the Ghana Gold Board and his team for their cooperation and collaboration with us as we navigated this. It's the outcome of a couple of months of very intense, negotiations and learnings from each other as we looked at the different interests. And for us, finally, the Chamber of Mines and its members are corporate citizens of Ghana. Our commitment is also to Ghana to ensure that Ghana becomes, the destination of choice when it comes to the mining ecosystem we want to have. And importantly, to grow, not just stay where we are, but grow in our sector. So we are grateful for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So that was Frederick Atakuma speaking last. We also heard who's the president of the Chamber of Mines. Then we had Ken Ashigbe speaking after Sami Jemfi had spoken as well. And so that is the good news, which is replete on a number of front pages this morning. But I want to take you to page 13 now of the Daily Graphic, right? Because the local government minister says bill to end witchcraft accusation is currently under consideration. The story is by Nana Konedu Ajiman. It reads that the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs is considering the adoption of an anti-witchcraft bill aimed at ending the scourge of witchcraft accusation in Ghana. The Minister for Local Government and Religious Affairs has told Parliament. He said the private member's bill on witchcraft accusations introduced by the Member of Parliament for Medina, Francis Xavier Sosu, sought to criminalize witchcraft accusations, protect victims and punish perpetrators. He explained that while the bill had been tabled, it had not yet been passed into law. Collaboration with the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection remains essential to safeguard vulnerable populations and ensure comprehensive protection mechanisms, including shelters for victims of witchcraft accusation, domestic violence, child trafficking and child marriage, he said. Now, on the review of existing laws, this is what he had to say. Addressing Parliament yesterday, Mr. Ibrahim said his ministry had set a target to review 2 existing laws on witchcraft enacted within the sub-region with the aim of aligning Ghana's legal framework with international human rights standards. Mr. Speaker, let us rise together as Parliament, chiefs, faith-based leaders and civil society to end the scourge of witchcraft accusation. Let Ghana be known not for exclusion and fear, but for dignity, compassion and justice, he said. The minister stated this in response to a question from the MP for Kumeu, Enesiao Enin, who asked about measures being taken to rally the support of chiefs and community stakeholders to address witchcraft accusations. The minister said the phenomenon of witchcraft accusations remain a pressing social challenge in Ghana, often resulting in stigma, violence and exclusion of vulnerable groups, especially women, children and the elderly. Now, there's a school of thought, right? And this is from some of the advocates. There's a school of thought that pastors or some religious leaders, let me put it kindly, some religious leaders are behind the failure of the past legislation under the 8th Parliament from coming to light, because it was directly going to affect business in terms of activities by them. I am tempted not to believe, because this entire process, which is to start all over again, we had work done with it. In fact, that legislation, that private members legislation which was passed, did not face any scrutiny or did not face any opposition in Parliament. So it beats the mind slightly why that was not assented to by the previous administration, and we're almost 2 years into President Mohammed's tenure, and we're now being told by the local government minister that work is underway to have a new bill tabled for consideration. Right? It just doesn't quite sit well in terms of a protection of that vulnerable group. And I'm hoping we can speak to some of the NGOs who pushed greatly for the passage of the bill, right? Because by now, and this was a promise by the president as well during his campaign days. He said he was going to ensure that the legislation is passed to protect women from being accused, particularly the elderly, from being accused, so that the witch camps can be disbanded as well, and these persons returned to society so they can live freely. If there's anything to go by, the minister is saying that the previous legislation was to criminalize persons who falsely accuse others of witchcraft, because these are matters of spirituality and you cannot really prove, right? But let us know what you think as well in relation to the subject matter, because it's going to take me to Facebook so I can get a few of the comments that a number of you have been sharing with us here on the 3FM Sunrise as to exactly the stories we've been bringing to you. But while at that, I'm still on pages 13 of the Daily Graphic newspaper, where there is plans to have a national disaster risk strategy. The story is by Juliet Echan Safo, and it reads that the country has begun developing its first comprehensive national disaster risk reduction strategy and action plan to serve as a national framework for coordinated disaster prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. The plan would strengthen institutional collaboration, promote risk-informed development planning, and establish a national technical working group on early warning and anticipatory action. A multi-stakeholder consultation meeting on the development of the disaster risk reduction strategy and plan was held in Accra yesterday, June 25, to assess the country's achievements in disaster management and identify existing gaps and opportunities and provide technical inputs for strategy that will reduce disaster risks across sectors while protecting lives, livelihoods, and the economy. I know there are demolition of some structures by a number of organizations, right? Is it AMA that is going around and pulling down structures which are not fit for purpose? One of the papers had a story like that yesterday. But I'll switch lanes quickly and take you to Parliament proper, because the minority has alleged that former Chief Executive Officer of the Microfinance and Small Loan Center, Maslow, Sedina Tamaklo, was not placed in prison custody for 15 days after returning to Ghana despite being subject to a custodial sentence. I'm going to pause here and have us listen to the Menchia South Member of Parliament, who's also the NPP's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee spokesperson, Nana J. Bafo, address the media on this, and then I'll return with a bit more for you.
We can categorically state that until yesterday, the 24th of June, Madam Sedina Tamaklo was not in prison custody. And so from the 9th of June when she arrived to the 24th of June yesterday, she was not in prison custody. 15 clear days. And that was why the Minister for Interior could confidently come out yesterday. And so if you observe, following her return, the communication was by the Minister for Communication. And that had a lot of controversy. And that is why the media kept pressing. And yesterday, when she was admitted into prison custody, that was when the Minister for Interior came out. We can again confirm that she is in the female prison of a medium prison installation. Our intelligence is that she went in under protest because her assurance was that they were not going to have her go into prison custody, and that they were going to work around the clock to have the decision overturned so that she will have her liberty. It is only because of the public pressure that the government has decided to deliver her into prison custody. By preventing her from serving the prison term for the 15 days that she has been in Ghana, government has interfered with a lawful order of a court of competent jurisdiction, and that is contempt of court. And the government will only do that because Madam Sedinam Tamaklo is one of its own.
Asking questions as to why this was even a subject matter of conversation to start off with. It simply should have been something that the government deals with, and we're done, right? If this person has been extradited into the jurisdiction, she's taken into prison custody to serve a term, and that brings an end to any such conversation. But unfortunately, that did not happen, at least from what the minority is telling us. It resulted in speculations, government spokespersons having to provide explanations, and now the minority is alleging or claiming that she was only taken into custody on the 24th of June, right? 15 clear days after she arrived into the jurisdiction, and further alleging that there was some assurance that she wasn't going to be incarcerated and that the process was that we cannot speak to, because those are allegations which we do not have substance of which there is proof. But on the subject matter of whether or not she was subsequently, or she was taken into prison custody immediately she made herself available, or she was brought into the jurisdiction, that became very debatable, because people trusted little the position of government, and government spokesperson, Minister for Government Communication Felix Kwachofosu, had cause to address this in other media conversations on other media platforms in seeking to answer questions after Imani Franklin Kujo said they had it on good word that she was in some house arrest of some sort and wasn't in prison custody. Again, some of these things are completely needless in the grand scheme of governance, public perception, and the general sense as to whether or not all persons will be treated equally before the law. Because if she's going to go into custody, what prevents the state from doing so immediately? Or is it the case that the incessant questions being asked is what has forced the hand of government into finally agreeing to take her into custody? These are all questions you and I cannot both answer in relation to what may have played out. But we understand that the Interior Ministry says that they will be making a formal response on the minorities' press conference today, because we had sought to get a bit from them. But we understand that an official statement will be issued in seeking to address head-on the claims by the minority from yesterday. And so we will, I'm sure we'll get the full details from there. But be that as it may, what prevented that assured word from coming through in terms of the subject matter of public perception, good governance, and the government's own quest to have persons answer for crimes against the state in terms of corruption? And oh, by the way, there's a new anti-corruption plan as launched by the president yesterday. It's supposed to guide us from 2026 up until 2030. The question that brings readily to mind is, how different is this from the others which have been announced in the past? Here's the president speaking to this yesterday when it was formally launched.
And I wish to use this platform to restate my commitment to transparent and accountable governance. In my past presidency, I had the privilege of launching the 10-year National Anti-Corruption Action Plan in 2015. And I'm pleased to report to you that just yesterday, Cabinet approved the new National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Action Plan, (2026 to 2030) for onward transmission to Parliament. I'm also happy to announce to you that yesterday Cabinet took a decision directing the Attorney General to draft a bill for the protection of state assets. It's called the State Assets Protection Bill. It shows the guidelines under which any state assets can be disposed, including lands, buildings, state assets, factories, industry, so that no government just capriciously disposes of state assets.
That's President Mahama. The last we saw of National Anti-Corruption Plan was in 2016, and if you go on to Shraj's website, you find a copy of a 72-page report there. We're hoping we can get a bit more in terms of details, right? But let me take you to the Ghana News Agency's portal and see if it provides a bit more in terms of the details as to this National Anti-Corruption Plan and what this will seek to do and how different it will be from the 2016 one. Because even from the nomenclature, that's different. In 2016, we had National Anti-Corruption Plan. In 2026, 10 years on, we have National Ethics. So there's ethics which have been introduced, an anti-corruption action plan. Right? It's expected to last from 2026 to 2036. And the story is by Idi Yire. And it reads that President Mahama announced on Thursday, June 25, that Cabinet has approved the new National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Plan 2026-2036 for onward transmission to Parliament. This is part of the government efforts to ensure transparency and accountability. The President also announced that the Cabinet took a decision directing the Attorney General to draft a bill for the protection of state assets, known as a State Assets Protection Bill. He added that it showed the guidelines under which any state assets could be disposed of, including lands, buildings, and what have you. Now, the two-day conference on the theme Reimagining Partnership for Democratic Consolidation and Intensive Development is organized by Star Ghana Foundation. It brought together stakeholders from across civil society, government, and what have you. Now, President Mahama said during his previous presidency, he had the privilege of launching the 10-year National Anti-Corruption Plan, which is what I was mentioning to you, is on the front pages of or you find a copy of on Shraj, right? And he's returned and we'll see to the launch of the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Plan for the next 10 years. I want to go on to the phone lines and speak to Edem Senan, who is a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption on this one. Mr. Senan, I appreciate you joining us this morning. I trust that all is well with you.
Good morning, and yes, I'm fine, thank you.
Great. We're seeing the president announce to us that the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Plan is set to go before Parliament and then to be approved subsequently. We've seen a 10-year National Anti-Corruption Plan in place, and we've seen the work that we've been able to do against corruption. What are your expectations of this new plan, which we understand is going to Parliament, even as we assess what has existed up until now?
Well, first of all, I would want to point out that this one is a 5-year plan, and it is part of the learning of the previous one, because the 10-year was a very long period. So the 5-year allows us a strategic frame for it to be reviewed. Let me also point out that I was extremely impressed with government's investments in getting this done thoroughly. It took almost a year, and I think we finished sometime last quarter last year. It involved all the anti-corruption agencies, the international stakeholders, civil society, and there were national, regional consultations involving citizens, where a thorough review of the previous 10-year plan was done, and then, we picked from that to build on this. My expectations are that government will make sure that we have a dedicated source of funding, because one of probably the key most challenge that faced the previous one was there was no dedicated source of funding. So simply put, stakeholders who had some money put it into various sections of that plan without us having any government dedicated funds that would therefore say the basic things were going to be done and achieved within the time frame. We need dedicated funding so we know that the key components of this plan will get executed. Let me also point out that the change from just a national anti-corruption to ethics and anti-corruption is because one of the key areas we identified where our society seems to be losing is direction, is the issue of ethics. Knowing what is right, doing what is right, and influencing others in your circle of influence to do what is right. And it appears that this is something that we need to reinculcate right from primary or even before primary. And that is also captured in the document. The issue of making sure that we have a stronger understanding of what is required as obligations of a citizen vis-a-vis also what your privileges are. That's also captured. And then there is a lot in this one looking at technology, because with the pace at which the world is going, if we don't understand what is going on in the digital world and have tools to deal with corruption and fraud there'll be a lot of challenge in dealing with corruption. So these are some of the key things I'll be expecting that the rollout of the NIACAP will deliver to the people of this country.
Right. From what you tell us, it does suggest you've had a good glimpse of the new plan, or at least at the realm
I was part of the process.
Yes.
It was a long process, and many of us, I think everyone, all the key stakeholders were involved right from the beginning. I think they had a good plan. They got us all involved. We didn't even just do Accra. We went around all regions. And it's been waiting, I think, for assent from cabinet since the last quarter of last year.
So in terms of institutions which will be playing an active role in this, I'm looking at the 2016 to 2026 one, and it's on the Shraj website. It does appear Shraj was supposed to take up a huge chunk in terms of the work to be done. Is that the same in terms of this new plan, or with the emergence of other anti-corruption bodies like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, all of that has been embedded and they are supposed to play vital or some key roles in this new 5-year plan which is expected?
That's a brilliant question. Yes, indeed. With all the new things that have happened, the newer agencies have also been given key roles as per understanding of the laws that were generated. So, for example, with the OSP Act 959 and its specificity in terms of corruption-related issues, therefore means that you could not avoid making sure that you captured what the OSP would do. So we have categorized all the anti-corruption agencies, the roles they'll be playing, but critically also said that there had to be a clear legal framework in terms of an MOU that properly defines the dependencies and the synergies that they need to leverage between each other to give us a better result. So not just talking about it, but also pointing out that we ought to bring everybody to the table, make sure there's an MOU that clearly defines how they work together to reduce the kind of tensions that we see and therefore making sure that we get the outcomes that we desire.
Now, yesterday, when the news came that this new anti-corruption plan was expected to come up, the general sentiment, at least I picked up, was that the first one failed, or the 2016 to 2026 one has failed. Why do we need a new one? What is the justification when we have a national anti-corruption plan and yet graft continues to spiral upwards? What is the essence of this plan if we're not seeing it work? Is there a justification as to why we must have this new one?
Absolutely. It's a basic tenet that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So the fact that one plan did not work does not mean that the next plan would not work. It does not mean you should not plan at all. That is actually chaos. It's a disaster waiting to happen. It means you are intentionally making sure that you don't get any tangible results. So there is a need to plan. What you ought to do is therefore dissect the previous plan and see what were its weaknesses, which is what we did. And I'm quite sure some parts of media were involved. You should talk to people like Samson, Ladianyini, and whatnot. They were very central to the processes, even moderating some of the public engagement sessions. I think if you get the data, you'll find that citizens themselves were pointing out what the weaknesses were. The agencies themselves were highlighting what the issues were. And so a lot of the thinking through what did not work has been factored back in. What is necessary is, at least in my mind, two things: the dedicated funding, making sure that you have persons of integrity at the helms of pushing this, so that commitment eventually reflects. So there is always a need to have a plan, but your plans must be better than the previous plans if you are to get results.
Right, better so we get results. In terms of my final question, you mentioned we had been waiting since, is it the second quarter of last year for this? What will be the time frames to have this now be taken to Parliament, go through the necessary process so that that plan can be kicked into motion? Because it suggests that it had been in the pipeline for quite a while.
So let me be, like I said, we finished, I think, last quarter of last year. It probably got to cabinet first quarter of this year. And so we've been waiting. So probably at least the last 6 to 7 months. And obviously cabinet would have a long list of things. How long it will take when it gets to Parliament, I hope it wouldn't take too long, because this is 2026. It's a starting year, and we're already half of the year gone. So I pray that Parliament will find, and by the way, Parliament itself had representatives as part of the process. It was wide-ranging from NCCE to, you just mentioned it. So hopefully they've already seen the document. I hope that it wouldn't take more than a couple of months, 2 or 3, for them to dispense of it so that the rollout can begin.
Mr. Senano, I appreciate you for speaking to us and providing a bit more insight as to what this new plan is. Right, that's Adam Senano, who is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, speaking to us this morning and also helping us appreciate what is expected of this new anti-corruption plan. Says that it's a learning, right? It's a learning from the previous ones, the mistakes done, and seeking to, amongst many other things, ensure that
92.7.
we do not repeat the mistakes of old, and it's undergone extensive consultation, consideration. Work was done last quarter of last year, and now we're expecting it to go before Parliament. Parliament, who also had representation all throughout the entire process, and so the expectation is that this will be done expeditiously. The important aspect he adds is that dedicated funding. Right, we must be dedicated in terms of putting our money where our mouth is to fight graft and deal with it thoroughly is the last aspect he adds. Because if you look at the previous plan, it centered largely around the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ. But now we understand that other agencies are going to be part and parcel in terms of the fight against grafts. Talk of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, who have become key, right, in terms of matters in relation to corruption and corruption-related fight. And so that is, as we have it, for you here in terms of a news review. We're going to go for this short one in terms of a break, and then when we return, the sports team will join us so we talk World Cup and other related matters for you here on the 3FM Sunrise.